Stop! Guys, before the fanboys dislike bomb this video, please hear me out. This isn't me saying this as my opinion, this is something that the members of the band admitted themselves, okay? So the hate mob can settle down for this video, okay? Maybe next time, guys. So yes, today we're going to talk about this very strange admission and to find out if there's any truth behind it. The idea that the Beatles apparently couldn't read or write music. Let's get into it. Hello! Welcome to Brainspill, the laziest show on the internet. My name is Tank, and today we're really banking on the views today because we are talking about one of the most influential bands of all time, the Beatles. Yes, regarded as one of the most influential musical groups of all time, the Beatles were an English rock band formed in Liverpool in 1960. This comprised of John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison and Ringo Starr. For some of music's biggest stars, it's strange for them to make such an admission so many years later after they were a band. Paul McCartney had a 60 Minutes interview in 2018 where he admitted that neither he nor any of his Beatles bandmates were able to read or write music, and they never understood music theory. It's embarrassing. I don't read or write music. None of us did in the Beatles. We did some good stuff though, and none of it was written down by us. It's basically notation. That's the bit I can't do because I don't see music as dots on a page. It's something in my head that goes on. Look, I'm not going to sit here and say that this is a completely abnormal thing to say, based on the fact that I too don't understand music theory. Who am I to say whether he's right or wrong? But, if you want my opinion, maybe breaking the norm was actually a good thing, and that might have been partly the reason why the Beatles might have gone absolutely stratospheric compared to many artists of the day. All it really takes is for someone to take a bold new direction with something that a lot of people may not have even tried before, to get something truly fantastic. So I think that Paul McCartney saying this actually potentially might have some truth to it. Who knows? Maybe we could just take his word for it and just say he's completely telling the truth. Because he probably is, but it's not quite as simple as that. This has been a debate for the longest time as to whether this statement is actually true or not. Given that many experts have weighed in from either side of the topic, it's actually very difficult to know the truth in this. Unless Sir Paul McCartney comments on this video and clarifies, but beggars can't be choosers. Later in their career, it might not have been quite as noticeable when they've perhaps become more established, more experienced, and certainly much more confident in their musical writing abilities. When I even searched up references and articles about this fact, there was a lot of people quote tweeting the original interview with people that were absolutely shocked to find out that this was even a thing. You would have assumed that one of the most influential bands of all time could read and write music. I mean, it's just such an odd thing to hear. It's not really something you'd expect coming from a band like that. But who am I to say? If by self-admission they can't read or write music, did they actually understand music theory? Music theory being the knowledge of how a song should be written, arranged, and performed. This can involve a number of things, from a basic understanding of harmony, melody, and rhythm. Three things I do not possess or have any general understanding of, but it's funny when you have a passion for music, and if you have a good ear for something that sounds good, then you can make it work. And you know what, I do sort of agree with this, that even if you don't know the ins and outs of the actual music theory, just by listening to music and having such a wide spectrum of music to listen to, you can kind of get an appreciation for something which is good and something which is bad. I mean, yes, this is a very, very opinionated thing, but there are some general tenets that you can go with, even if you can't quite put your finger on it. Things which makes a song good, shall we say. Yes, there is talent there. Even if you can't pick up on the chord structure and you can just hear it by ear, you know that perhaps that musical artist has got the X factor, which maybe some other people don't have. In order to dig into this a little bit further, maybe one good place to consider is the musical influences that the band had, with the Beatles commenting on this many, many times before. Yes, the world was influenced by the Beatles, but who influenced the Beatles? A few examples were Britain's closest thing to a rock band at the time, Cliff Richard and the Shadows, who heavily influenced the band and adopted many things from it. And of course, Bob Dylan, who would also influence the shape and the sounds of the band. Lennon himself would even go on to try and emulate a lot of his sounds as a singer and songwriter later in his career. Other influences could be found in Buddy Holly, Chuck Berry, Ravi Shankar, the Everly Brothers, Elvis Presley and Eric Clapton. And do you know what? It shows. Eric Clapton being an influence, it's just sort of a given at this point. He influenced the band so much that the band even employed him to make some of the band's most famous songs, one of which was pretty much written by Clapton, While My Guitar Gently Weeps. As a matter of fact, one of Paul McCartney's favourite tracks came from the Beach Boys of all artists, where he originally said the following: "We used to admire the singing, the high falsetto really, and the very sort of California lyrics. It was later, it was Pet Sounds that blew me out of the water. First of all, it was Brian's writing. I love the album so much. I've just bought my kids each a copy of it for their education in life. I figure no one is educated musically till they've heard that album. I was into the writing and the songs. The majority of Beatles songs were primarily written by Lennon and McCartney, but it's no lie that all four of the band members were songwriters, with George Harrison coming into the fray later on with songs like Here Comes the Sun and Something. Ringo even had input with a few song credits such as Octopus Garden." So yeah, even this self-admission is a shock to many people, even myself, not gonna lie. But when you dive into this a little bit more and look how deep some of their influences actually are, and I imagine growing up with music in such a way, I think it's pretty easy to actually pin this down and say that even though you don't understand those basic core fundamentals, if you want to be creative, maybe try something a little bit different, and maybe just trust your gut a little bit more. Maybe you don't need all this fancy knowledge of music theory when you can just make a song that sounds good. This also makes sense due to the fact that their musical talents far exceeded any grounded need to actually learn music theory. So yes, the next time that your music teacher says to you that you'll never be able to write music until you learn the fundamentals, there's only one answer that you need to give to them. And that answer is, you never heard of a band called the Beatles before? If you liked the video, be sure to like and subscribe. If you want to be notified as soon as I upload my next video, be sure to hit the bell button. And if you've got any ideas for what topics you'd like me to discuss next, let me know down in the comments below. As always, sources used in the video will be in the description. So, my advice to you is if you don't understand how to write music, then just keep writing music. I mean, if you think it sounds good and maybe you have a second opinion from someone that says it sounds good, then it probably sounds good. You just gotta trust that gut, you know, coming from someone that knows exactly what they're talking about. I'll see you guys in the next video. Fantastic.